Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terry Morrow. Say hi, Terry.
Hello there.
So usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Terry and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change.
Yes.
So this week we'll be talking about the Rio Olympics. Especially the opening ceremony, which we live tweeted the other day. We are going to continue our Parks and Recreation Marathon, and we will talk about the West Wing episode, the White House Pro-Am, and also the West Wing Weekly podcast episode that goes along with that West Wing show. So, should we jump right into the Olympics?
Let's jump right into the Olympics. First, I think I've said it before that Twitter adds such a dimension to big public events.
Yes.
That I don't know how I lived without it before. It just makes things so much more fun. We had a blast live tweeting, I think, even though I don't think either of us realized when you had the idea that it was going to be 5 bleeping hours.
No, I did not.
The first hour was basically just NBC running down the clock.
Yes.
Right? The first half hour. There was no opening ceremony going on. Plus which they delayed it for an hour. So it was going on, but they were not showing it to us.
Right. There was just their random BS that went on.
Yeah, because I felt bad. I was missing like the first half hour because I was at an actual real life sporting event with my son. But by the time I got home, it was just starting. So, and then I feel like the parade of athletes, as much fun as that can sometimes be, is like that big middle section of, say, the Emmys when they're giving out things to like best TV movie or something where it seems like time stops and it just, nothing that you have any real interest in is going on for a massive amount of time. And then they get to the stuff at the end. But it was fun to watch the athletes in there, as I think I called it, the parade of WTF outfits.
Yes.
So that was fun. Some of them were blazers. Are blazers always such a big part of the Olympics?
I feel like they usually are. I mean, it's interesting because I did read the coverage on Go Fug Yourself this morning about the whole opening ceremony. They
were quite enthused about the blazers, as I recall.
They have 64 slides in their slideshow. But, there's either the blazer, like, sporty, preppy thing going on, or it's like some kind of traditional attire from that country or that culture, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
It did look, I think you said it looked like a convention of flight attendants, which is absolutely what it looked like. Yes. So very many blue blazers
and piping, which
piping. Yeah, see, the piping made them distinctive, but not in a good way.
Well, and there only it only makes them distinctive when it's only one that does it, but then it was a lot of
that was a mistake.
Did it.
Was it, I think it was Australia was one of the piping offenders, wasn't it?
Yes, theirs was like green.
Yes. And then I read something that the lining of those jackets had the names of all the past medalists from Australia, which is incredibly cool, but you couldn't see that part.
Right. And like no one
put the same creative imagination into the outside that they did to the inside. Maybe they did. Maybe that was the problem.
Well, and no one apparently told the NBC commentators because their whole thing the whole entire time was, did you know?
Fire the intern who failed to reveal that factoid.
Come on. That would have been really useful for them to know.
What a death march of factoids that thing is. It's just, you often feel when my husband is watching sports, he hates the fact that the commentators just have to fill every single second with words. Yeah. And that is an example of a time when, I mean, that whole 2.5 hour parade of athletes, just having to fill that with chatter is excruciating. I mean, I'm sure that they are all just horrified at the notion of what they're going to have to do. And I imagine like a room full of young people at desks with phones and computers churning those things out.
Right.
Yemen is the home of mocha. Write it down. Write it down. And
Yeah.
then some of them were like horrible stories. It's like, do we have to talk about? I mean, oh yes, their entire team lost last time, or
Right.
oh, here's
Or
the guy whose brother did some crime.
oh yeah, that one, where the brother was one of the bombers in
Yes,
Brussels or something. Like, really? Like,
it's,
come on. Now is
they're
not the
talking about
time.
how much this guy is trying to live it down and rise above that. But let's, at this moment of his glory, let's bring
Remind
it up
him. Yeah,
again.
let's talk about it some more.
Oh my gosh, that was of questionable taste. But perhaps they had no other factoids. You got to fill the air, I
Well,
guess.
like, move on to somebody else, or put in one of your 10 million commercials at that point.
Oh yeah, man, it wasn't so bad during the Parade of Athletes, but during the opening ceremony with all the
Yes.
projections and the lights and the dances and all that stuff, that was like it was 30 seconds of show, 3 minutes of commercial.
Yeah, it was
Um,
really, really
that was
bad.
disgraceful. I mean, I guess everybody has to earn their salary and their flight. Costs a lot to fly people there, but still, that was
Well,
not good.
NBC spent, I believe, $1 billion on the rights to this,
Ah,
to be able to air this. So they gotta make back
gotta
their billion. And
gotta sell a lot of cars.
yeah, a few. I mean, I liked some of them. Some of the
Yeah,
ads, like the Visa
that's
ad that shows, like, my favorite part is the guy who's eating breakfast and he realizes it's time to go, and he just tosses his plate into the dishwasher with, like, perfect
yeah, the
aim.
discus.
Yeah, so
Yes,
that's a good ad.
those were
There's
cute.
a few
I
there's a few ads.
I like me a good Olympics themed ads. If
Mm-hmm.
it's Olympics themed, then it's part of the show.
Right.
Um, just like with the Super Bowl, the commercials are the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of us, so that I like, and I always like seeing Paralympians breaking into the ad
Yeah.
market, especially when they are just in there with other athletes. Like, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I guess at the Winter Paralympics, there were a number of ads featuring Paralympians that was all about their story,
Mm-hmm.
and their tragedy and what makes them, sets them apart, which was better than nothing. It's better than being invisible. But
Right.
let's move on to a place where bunch of athletes. Some of them are running on their feet. Some of them are running in these fancy wheelchairs. Some of them are,
Yeah.
just a bunch of athletes, and that seems to be happening more and
Mm-hmm.
more, and I really like and appreciate that. So what did you think of the opening spectacle, I guess is what do we call that?
Yeah, I don't know.
In my house, it did not rise to the adoration of the Industrial Revolution at the London opening ceremony, which I realize not everybody loved.
Right.
We loved it here. We watched it many, many, many times before I think it was removed from YouTube because they were selling it on CDs. But this was fine. I thought quite a lot of it looked like bacteria taking over the stage,
Right. Which
as
was an
did other people I was
unfortunate
very relieved to see.
reference.
Yes, exactly. Maybe I was just reading too much about the water in Rio, that it seemed to be they were taking it very literally. But, given that, I guess they didn't have much of a budget and they had to, I mean, by Olympic opening ceremony standards, not by like normal person standards.
Right.
But they had to do it on a shoestring, as it were. So they were doing stuff with projection on this white surface of amorphous shape. And it was, I mean, I thought they did some interesting stuff with it.
I
The
did
dancing
too.
looked to me like So You Think You Can Dance Rio. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but they were, I think that they did do pretty well, especially if you want to try to compare with London, or Sochi, where
yes.
I remember thinking the Sochi one was just weird from
Yeah.
beginning to end. And this one, you could kind of see where they were going, and they covered some of the history of Brazil, and they talked about climate change. And I thought it was good that they didn't like gloss over like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, we are a nation that's built on slavery, but never mind that right now. Like they did include that as part of
We have
their
a lot of slums, but look, kids are dancing.
right.
So, it was, yeah, it's good that they include them from a social responsibility point of view, from a let's have a party point of view, and
Right.
present what's great about our country. A little weird.
Right. It's a very, very difficult dance that they have to do, and I feel for them.
But thank goodness they had Giselle Bundchen doing her last catwalk ever.
Yeah, whatever. I
okay.
don't know.
I guess we're talking about the natural resources of the country. You got to include the supermodel, but that was
well,
that was
and
odd. It
like
was fun seeing her dance in the stands later on, but still.
right, and but for her to do like this is our greatest, national treasure, and she's gonna walk. Like, really? That's all she's gonna do? Couldn't they have come up with something else for her to do? I mean, she didn't even open her mouth. Like, I don't know.
But I mean, that's her talent, right? That's her thing. She walks beautifully in clothes and high heels. That's her profession, basically. That's.
I know.
That is a good gig, man. Although I would not want to walk on those shoes in front of people.
No, but I still thought they could have used her differently. I don't know. I'm not a model. I'm not a TV producer.
Yeah. I think her greatest asset is just standing there being beautiful.
Yeah,
which she did gloriously.
She did fine. Yes,
for the last time ever, apparently.
Yeah, that is interesting. Another comment. I don't know why that had to be part. I mean, it couldn't just be like, oh, she's famous and this is her. We're so proud that she's from our country. But why do we have to get into the whole? Oh, it's her last.
Maybe that was just NBC doing that.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe was that on the loudspeaker there in the arena? Maybe it was just NBC. Some intern said she's not doing this anymore. This must be the last time.
Right. Run with it.
They were pretty desperate. Yeah, exactly. Well, have you been watching any of the actual sports in the days following the opening ceremony?
A little bit. Just watching mostly just the NBC coverage, so you kind of just get what you get. Which I don't know. I mean, there's been already a lot of talk today about how sexist some of it has been. I mean, and I noticed it myself when the Hungarian woman crushed this race, and she beat the world record. And she beat all the other competitors by like 5 seconds, which is an extremely long time. And all they could talk about was how her husband was her coach, and he helped. He got her there. Like, come on, guys, he wasn't in the water.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that was bad. And then the a woman who won a medal and was all identified as the husband of a football player.
Yeah, or the wife of a football player.
The wife. Yes, the
her
wife.
husband is a football player. Yeah, I saw that too. That's not good.
Yeah, come on.
But
yeah, we've been watching, and I enjoyed very much this morning the little clip of the gymnast's parents, Aly Raisman's parents.
I saw that last night when it was actually going on, and my heart went out to them.
Well, and the reason why I enjoy it so much is because I have totally been there when I watch my kids. Not so much when my son plays hockey, because you can't sustain that for an entire hockey game. But when my daughter skates and it's like 2 minutes,
sure.
There's just, it's so nerve-wracking. And I just I'm sure I've done what they're doing. So
this is why I could never. I'm glad none of my kids got into really competitive events like that, because I would totally. I mean, I get like that for a school concert. Oh, don't wiggle that way. No, don't jump. Don't bend. And people came up, one concert, somebody came up to me afterwards and so I saw how nervous you were for your child. And I'm like, oh, please, no, don't have seen that. I thought I was being so discreet. But yes, I was being pretty much like her parents. So while I think that's wonderful for all us parents to see and we can all relate, I also kind of wish that nobody had to see that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they wish nobody had to see that. I'm sure she is like, oh, Mom, you did that again. Because I guess they did this at the last Olympics.
Yeah,
too.
they did.
Can't you just sit there?
Right.
How old is she? Like 22?
She's 22.
No 22-year-old wants to see her mom and dad doing that in the stands in front of a global audience.
Right.
Just have some mercy, NBC cameraman. Come on.
I know.
They always have to show the family in the stands.
Right. And there was one of the swimming races, they showed the parents of, this was a British swimmer, and this is the first time his mother has ever been on an airplane. Like, okay, can we talk about the sports?
One time I think they showed Michael Phelps' mother, and she looked like she is so over it now. She made such a big splash his first Olympics, and now she's like an old hand.
She's like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Put your camera someplace else, folks. Yeah, it's always fun to watch. I keep forgetting it's on, because I like just having it on in the background during this time, because there's always something on TV that I can work while it's on when the Olympics are around. But we watched some, my daughter and I watched some last night. We watched swimming. So we watched Katie Ledecky win by an entire 6-foot body length. And we watched the gymnastics. And I am nobody's mother there, but I was doing the oh my gosh contortions on the sofa every time anybody went over a vault. It's so fast.
Yeah,
and they
it's so
spring
scary.
into the air and they flip and their head is not that far from the mat. And the day before, a male gymnast snapped his shin in two doing this.
Yeah, that was.
And it's just, oh my gosh, I was so nervous every time one of them just catapulted herself into the air.
I get that way about the balance beam. Oh,
yeah. Well, and they were showing I would say I missed it, except they showed it in instant replay over and over again. Some girl landed on her head in her floor routine and was like dazed, and they took her out, kind of against her will. And then she came back. I don't know if it was the same day or the next day, but she came back to vault because she had to do that for her team to stay on the running.
Wow.
And insisted on doing both vaults. And I'm like, gymnastics doesn't get a lot of credit because it's cute little girls in spangly leotards, but there is potential for serious bodily injury in this sport.
Absolutely.
So that gives it that extra degree of, you don't want them to screw up, but you also don't want them to maim themselves for life.
Yeah.
Or snap a leg or a neck. It's very nervous making, and they all seem so young and sweet and little. Yes. I haven't watched the men's because they're not young and sweet and little. Well, they're young. Somebody, I saw a tweet or something from somebody watching the diving and feeling the same way, that any minute I'm going to see somebody crack their head on a diving board. So there's a lot. The marvel of human competition. Right. All of us on our couch looking through our fingers. Right. At least swimming, they mostly just lose is the worst that can happen to you. But I suppose there have been swimming injuries. Somebody gets kicked in the face or hits the wall in the wrong way or dives.
While diving, yeah. Well, and there was a funny picture going around that showed a swimmer on the block, and behind him you could see that there was a lifeguard, and it said, in case you're feeling useless, remember that there are people who have to be the lifeguard at the Olympic swimming race. They're going to jump in
and save the professional swimmers.
Right.
Or something I don't think I had ever noticed before that I didn't notice the other day. I think it was either it wasn't on the vault. It was on the uneven bars with the girls, is the spotter. It's like these girls are swinging around, and it's some guy's job to jump in and stand right where they're going to swoop through in a second and then jump the heck out.
Right.
That's
pretty scary also.
That's a job I'd want to wear a helmet for, because she may be, 4'9" and weigh less than 100 pounds, but those feet are going to do some damage if they happen to smack you.
Right. She's moving pretty fast.
Yeah. So I will be continuing to watch it. Maybe we'll check in on it again on this podcast, just because it's fun. It's a time sports that you never see a lot of, and I watch a lot of beach volleyball. Beach volleyball is usually fun.
That is fun.
And I wonder how hot that is on their feet.
That's true. And scratchy. When they dive, when they go down.
Oh yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Mm-hmm. So we'll check back on that, and we are going to try to storify all of our tweets from the opening ceremony.
I will have that up hopefully by the time this podcast goes up.
Yeah,
so you can follow along as well as I can possibly make it work to follow along when we were responding to different people. But I highly recommend live tweeting for any major event. We will be trying to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to this week's edition of our Parks and Rec Marathon. We had four episodes that we watched this week, although one was a double, because these were the final 4 from season 6. They are Prom, Flu Season 2, 1 in 8,000, and Moving Up. And a lot happened.
Yeah. All 4 of these episodes had a lot happening, but especially there was a big twist at the end of the last one that carries over into next season.
Right.
Moves it on up.
Right. So taking from the beginning, so the first one was Prom. That's, in another one of these Pawnee convolutions that I don't understand. Somehow the Parks and Rec department is throwing the high school prom.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is amusing for Ben and Tom being the DJs and April hating the prom but going anyway because of Andy and wearing like this totally Edwardian goth get-up thing. So it's a lot of fun. The plot about Leslie and Ron fighting over their intern, like whether she's going to go into government work or work in a sawmill, was not that interesting to me. I mean, everything else was a lot more fun than that.
I'm pretty sure that's the same girl from the Model UN episode in, I think, last season.
Yeah.
I think she was France.
Yes, I believe you're right. I recognize her.
It's nice to see her again. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we've seen that before, of the two of them at odds. But I do like knowing that Ron has a 10-point scale for how crazy Leslie is being. That escalates to various precautions as she gets more and more ramped up.
Right.
And I was very happy that Ben got a win on the music thing.
Yes.
Tom is always so snobby. And it turns out that what the kids wanted to listen to was classic rock.
Right. Which, of course, is scarily close to, what I would want to listen to. And
Yes.
Yep.
A classic.
So that was the prom. And then we moved on to Flu Season 2. Yes. And this was amusing because, at the beginning, Larry is sick with, some sort of respiratory flu, and then Andy thinks he's getting it, and then Leslie's like, no, you can't get sick, and then she throws up, and that is like a pet peeve of mine. That is not the flu. Like, the flu is coughs and sneeze and body ache. It is not throwing up, unless you want to call it the stomach flu, which isn't a thing, but whatever. That bugs me. But then, of course, it turned out that she did not have the flu after all. In Leslie overachiever fashion, she's not only pregnant, she's pregnant with triplets.
Yes. Which I think the triplets we find out in the episode after this, but yes, that she is pregnant, and that at the very same time Ben is deciding that he's ready to start a family.
Right.
That was convenient that they turned out to both be in the
like,
same
good
place at the same time.
Got some good news for you, buddy.
But I mean, Flu season 1 is one of my favorite episodes ever, even though it does break your rule regarding throwing up being part of the flu. It's worth it for Chris's chagrin.
Yes.
But but this one, the whole thing at the wine tasting is hilarious.
I loved all of that part.
It's the absolute best part.
Yes,
for
sure.
April just saying the most bizarre things, and Craig saying relatively reasonable things, but in his way.
In his Craig way. Yes, I loved that whole part. And Donna at the wine tasting. Yes. And then at the very end when they have like a test for Craig to see if he can be the sommelier at Tom's restaurant. And they really try to get his goat, and he is working so hard. Oh, that's such a good scene.
And then he would go out of the room and yell.
And scream. Yeah.
That was great. And then poor Ben having nobody to talk about his problems to but Ron.
Yeah. Who really does not want to hear them.
Yes. And so he just keeps drinking, what was it, blueberry
wine that looked just disgusting.
As Ron says, I don't drink alcohol from that portion of the color spectrum.
Right. But then he finds out exactly how alcoholic it is. So
yes. And then it's fun.
Ready to change his tune. Oh, yes.
And then they meet doppelganger Ron out in the
out in the woods when they're trying to get home.
Yes. And this also has the guest appearance, first of 2, by Jeff Tweedy of Wilco as the lead singer of Land Ho, who is not going to get back together for the Unity concert, but then Andy as Johnny Karate charms his kid.
Is the thing that puts him, gets the band back together. Yeah. So that's also in Flu season 2 that they're working on bands for the Unity concert.
Yes.
And then in 1 in 8,000, which is the next episode, they it really doesn't get that much into the Unity concert.
No, it checks off some other things from the checklist. I mean, we find out that Leslie is having triplets, and poor Ben they have to not be stressed.
Right, right. And he's thinking about the incredible cost of having 3 babies at once.
Yes, so he's freaking out, but trying to keep her from freaking out, which is impossible to do because it's Leslie.
And this is the one with the concept of the ShamWow of stress.
Yes. When you mentioned that the other day, I had not yet rewatched this show. When it came up, I went, oh! I feel like that all the time.
Right, in which Ben feels he has to absorb all of Leslie's stress like a ShamWow. And of course,
I'm now going to think of my freakouts as ringing out the ShamWow.
There you go. See?
That's all it is.
But it's very sweet at the end of the episode when they tell the whole gang that not only are they having a baby, they're having 3 babies, and then everybody comes up with some way that they're going to help. And it's very sweet and reassuring.
Exactly the spirit of the show that I like so much. And poor Andy having to try to keep that secret the whole time. And then poor April believing him that Larry is dying and being nice to him.
Which just about kills her.
That's right. And then we also have the subplot of meeting Donna's ex-boyfriend.
Michael.
Yes! In a recurring role from here to the end.
Right. And
so
we keep waiting to find out why he's so awful, because Ben says he's awful. Or because Donna says he's awful. And turns out he is just as perfect as he actually seems. So, yeah, that was a great moment.
It's like almost freakishly perfect and nice and wonderful. So, and nice little moment of starting to acknowledge Ron's growth and how he's changed. And you get the sense that Ron and Donna have known each other for a really long time, even though they don't get a whole lot of time together.
On the show,
Yes, that was nice having them together in this particular scenario and making observations to one another.
Right.
Very sweet.
Yeah. And then the big concert. So the season finale is called Moving Up, and this is when not only do we have Leslie and Ben, and for whatever reason Andy. Oh, I guess he's there because
They're going to grizzle. Yeah, I think it's best
I,
not to ask.
yeah.
I don't know, maybe Chris Pratt was doing something in San Francisco and so they
Yeah.
said, okay.
So they
I
go to
can't
San
remember from back then.
Francisco, and there are some very funny scenes with Andy and Alcatraz about how he's going to break into Alcatraz
Yeah.
and how he looks like he's going to try to ride a skateboard down the super steep hill, but he's not really. Anyway,
Yes,
some
that
funny
was
stuff
wonderful.
and a nice cameo from Michelle Obama,
Yes.
which was a lot of
And
fun.
Leslie freaking out as she
Right.
does.
And then
And then,
the
go ahead.
concert. And then you have the
Yes, well, but
concert.
then we also meet the folks at Grizzle, which I guess is supposed
Oh,
to be
yeah.
a Google parody.
Right.
And the return of the cones of Dunshire, which is
Dunshire,
now
that's
a thing that
right.
these hipsters are playing, and Ben is able to come in and wipe the floor with them, which is delightful.
Yes.
But he is surprised as to why anybody has it. But we find at the end that sweet, boring accounting guy has
Barney.
gone and copyrighted it in his name.
Yes.
It's now being marketed.
Which, maybe that's going to solve some of Ben's financial worries.
Maybe I can't quite remember, so I can't even spoil that. But yes, it was so nice to see it back and so funny to see people actually playing it and digging it.
Yes. That was excellent.
Yes.
And the concert, of course,
Yes.
is a lot of fun.
Yes.
With the real and fake bands, as we've talked
Right.
about, that
Right.
are there.
They had Genuine, who has been mentioned earlier as Donna's cousin. I think it was maybe in the
Yeah.
episode when they were all at her house for Larry's birthday or whatever his name was at that
Yeah,
time.
I remember.
And then the Decemberists were there as the Decemberists,
Mm-hmm.
but Wilco was there as Land Ho, and Yola Tengo was there as Bobby Night Ranger.
Which was very funny.
Yes, that was very funny. And Letters to Cleo, formerly seen on Ben's T-shirt a couple of times.
Right.
Is
And
there.
what I think my favorite part though was the finale of the concert where they
Yes.
get Mouse Rat back together. They sing the little Sebastian song, and
Yes.
then you have like Genuine singing with the woman from Letters to Cleo,
Yes.
and it's just awesome. I love that
Yes,
kind of stuff. I'm
absolutely.
a sucker for that kind of stuff.
I have played that back quite a number of times since it originally
Uh-huh.
aired. Whenever I need, I think I have it on our Cry playlist. But,
Bye, bye, little Sebastian. Yeah, that.
and of course, featuring a musical interlude from Duke Silver.
Yes.
So that was very nice to bring that around full circle and have Ron kind of go public with that. And then all the looks of the people in the audience, our friends in the audience when all these things were going on.
Like what?
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's
Yes.
even there's a quick Tammy 2
Yes.
appearance in this one. And like you said, it's just more showing Ron's growth, that he does seem to be pretty immune now to
Yes.
Tammy's her.
Yes, a little behind the scenes factoid. I was reading some reviews of this episode, and it was mentioned that originally in the original script, Ron and Diane contrive a way to get Tammy and Jam together. And that happens, I think, at Tom's Bistro, and they had to be cut for time.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
So that's kind of why they were both there, and then you never got the payoff.
Okay.
It's just like a name check, I guess,
Too
wound up being,
bad.
which is fine. This had a lot of that, little guest cameos by various
Right,
characters,
right.
Sapersteins and Joan and Pert and various. So
The only thing about this scene with Ron and Diane is that they could have just stuck a baby stroller in there, because where was baby John? They're there with the girls, and obviously he's at home with the babysitter, but come on, they didn't even need a stunt baby. You just needed
Right.
a stroller, and
I thought exactly the
stick
same
it in the
thing.
corner and you're good. So
Yes, that seemed, because I would have liked to see Tammy react to Ron with a baby
yes, exactly. So
of his own rather than his stepdaughter's.
right,
But
a minor.
not that they're not his own. That's a terrible turn of phrase. But
Right, but we know.
Tammy would know what I mean.
Yes. Yes. So,
And then we had the whole thing of Tom's restaurant, which I feel like we've kind of gone the Tom business plot a few times. But at least as at the end of this episode, it's a big success. So,
Right,
and
right.
the
After
horrific problems of the first time, most of them, I mean, a lot of the dumb thing Larry gets the blame for, you can't blame him too much, but the thing with the menus, that seems a little over the top.
Yes. Where he accidentally get pictures of his dog's butt all over the menus.
That's not something you want with your
food. No.
But then, of course, the big ending of this episode, Leslie has been asked to take a job with the National Parks Department and to go to Chicago to do that job. And she can't quite bring herself to leave Pawnee. Right. She finally decides to, and then she gets an inspiration, which represents the payoff of Ron renovating that floor, making it a beautiful office. So now, number one, she's going to work for the National Parks Department in Pawnee. She somehow convinces the guy to have her offices there.
Well, and
everybody convinced.
Right, and that was, you get Tom in his, business booster way chiming in, and you get Ben with his accounting facts, and so that was nice.
And April with her weird veiled threats. So that seems. I remember this episode seemed so perfectly to be an end of the series episode.
Yes,
everything about it just seemed perfect. The Unity concert, you could have just ended the series at the end of the Unity concert.
I thought the same thing.
So, and I think at the time this aired, we knew it was going to get another season, but it had been touch and go. I think. So I remember when the episode ended, I thought, you know what? I sure hope next season is good, because otherwise they squandered just a really perfect series end. Yeah. But then the last few minutes of the episode spring us forward into the future. 3 years into the future, we see the office thriving, Leslie being clearly in charge, despite the fact that she has bangs, which look kind of dumb. And
and you see the triplets.
The triplets are magically 3 years old, or, well, I guess she was just newly pregnant when we started, but they're not infants,
right,
or tiny children,
right.
And everything is perking. So I remember when this came out, everybody was kind of whoa about it. What is this going to be like? And they do indeed carry this through into the next season. The last season of Parks and Rec takes place in 2017.
Okay,
which enables them to do a lot of funny, futuristic things, which now, unfortunately, 2017 is very, very close, and it seems unlikely that any of those things will actually come to pass, but which is always the problem. But we're watching it in 2016, so we can still have an open mind.
Right. And I'm glad that we get to watch it right away, and we don't have to wait, a whole summer for it to come back.
Yes.
Because they did leave it on a cliffhanger-ish moment of them, of Ben and Leslie in an elevator going somewhere. We don't
And the
know.
next episode, I will tell you, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, picks up exactly there.
In the elevator.
Doors of the elevator open and they step out.
Okay.
I just checked. So, yes, the next 4 episodes we're going to watch, the 4th of those episodes, is another one of my favorites. And in fact, when I was looking at these 4 episodes we watched this week, I had to just go and watch that one because I saw it coming up and thought, I want to see that right now. Just the wonder of Netflix.
Yes.
You can just say, I remember that one. I want to watch that. So I will be interested to see what you think of that one, because that's particularly... the things that lead up to it you may not like so much, but that episode is worth it. I mean, it's worth it for the payoff.
Right.
So do not despair.
So those 4 are 2017, Ron and Jammy, William Henry Harrison, and then that 4th one that you were just talking about is Leslie and Ron.
Yes, it is.
So we will look forward to watching those this week and talking about them next week. And then let's just quickly mention the West Wing Weekly, which we are watching the West Wing season, or the series, along with the podcast called the West Wing Weekly. And the most recent episode, as we record this, was the White House Pro-Am. And what I like about this podcast is that whatever questions or things I scratch my head over during the episode, they always talk about.
That is so nice. And if they don't, you could go onto their website. They have comments.
Yes.
And they answer them sometimes, or other people will talk to you about them.
Yeah.
What was your question, this one?
Well, two things. One is the way that they kept on harping on this book about what was happening 100 years ago. And they didn't really, like 3 different characters mentioned it in 3 different contexts, and there was never much of a link between them. So they talked about that.
I kept wondering if Donna had mentioned, if I had missed a Donna line early on where they had said, this has been distributed to everybody to vet or something.
Right.
But then apparently not, because everybody else had that question too. I was fine with it for the payoff. When we got the payoff with Charlie commenting on it, then I thought it was worth the whole setup. But then I will accept things like that if I like the payoff. Not everybody does.
That, and the other thing that I was confused about was the title of it. I didn't quite get the title, the White House Pro-Am, and they talked a little bit about that.
Did they talk? I just realized when we sat down to talk that I had never listened to the entire podcast. I listened to the first half of it, so they did get into that.
They did a little bit at the end. So so it's always, I enjoy the podcast because of the granularity of it. You know, they really get into it. But also because they do seem to always cover the stuff that I'm
And you're still enjoying the show? You're your first time through?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I enjoyed
this one had a great scene between President Bartlett and the First Lady, played by Martin Sheen and Stockard Channing, when they have a fight in the Oval Office. And it's, say what you will about Aaron Sorkin, but the dialogue of their fight is so good. I mean, that's really hard to write, I think. A fight that sounds, an argument that sounds real. And it did. Yeah.
That's a very lived-in relationship, between the acting, the acting and the writing both, I think. They do a great job with that, and that continues. But the whole handling the First Lady and the repercussions thereof.
Right.
Trying to get poor, I don't remember the reporter's name.
Danny Kincannon.
Danny, poor Danny.
Timothy Busfield,
Yes. I love that character. I can't believe I couldn't come up with the name. And I also like the Charlie and Zoe subplot, and that things are, the complications of things. And him at the end realizing that he needs to not be about that. But it is all setting things up for later episodes. Right. As we've mentioned earlier, I think last week it was the 20 Hours in L.A. where they were starting to talk about the letters and the creepy-looking guys standing on the sides. So,
So next week, that podcast covers the episode 6, Meetings Before Lunch. So we will watch that with them, and we will come back next Tuesday and talk about it all. That's gonna be it, unless you have anything else I think we've
probably taken more than enough time at this point.
So that'll be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and our weekly group chats. And as always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terry.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.